Okay, so today is a special day. We are all the way from Sydney, from Australia. We'll be going to speak about spirituality and how it's important in our current world. Saliha, could you please introduce yourself and what do you do for business?
Thank you, Noor, for having me here. Well, my name is Saliha, as you've already said. And what I do is I am a soul coach. So I coach people, and I also am I'm podcasting. So I'm a podcast host. So that's as short as I can put it.
Could you explain a little more what do you mean you are a soul coach?
Okay, so soul coaching is a branch of life coaching. So as we all know, life coaching is where you coach another person to get over their issues, their traumas, and whatever mindset. So life coach is a broad term, and then there's a umbrella topic that comes under it, which is a spiritual coaching. And the aspect that I am going towards, and I'm also growing in this space, is the soul coaching space. So what soul coaching is, where my focus is about self-love. It's about reconnecting with your inner self, your inner calling, your inner voice, which most of us, because when we get so caught up in our everyday life, we forget that what do we really feel inside. So I coach people get to that voice, get to that authentic space so they can move forward in their lives and grow.
So my question here, you mentioned self-love. What is the difference between self-love and selfishness?
So what happens automatically is that when people hear the word self-love, it means like self-indulgence so much that you do not care about anything else or anyone else, right? Which is the opposite. It's just the way we are tuned in. We think that it's a negative term, whereas selfishness, if you put it in a category, is mostly to do with ill means of having something where you don't even care about anybody else, and you're like, I want to accumulate all this wealth, or I want all of this, and I don't care who gets hurt along the way, and I'm just going to be. It sort of has an evil connotation to it. Whereas self love is just simply said what we anciently were designed as human beings to be. We are always very self connected. We always had this communication with ourselves. So, self love is communicating with yourself in an empowered way so that you can speak to yourself in a way where you get to know your own self. And that's how it's actually the opposite of selfishness. That's how you can be good to others. You can communicate well to others. You cannot confuse them with what you actually want and who you are. And so you come from the space where your communication with yourself is so good that you're loving that space within yourself. That's the love part, right? So you love yourself so much, you communicate with yourself so well that when you reflect that energy to others, you are ready to take over anything in life. So you can be good with your friends, family, and you can just be authentic. You can be the real you. So that's what self love is in a very nutshell sort of a way.
So I'd like to make the question a little difficult. Like, how do you define self-love in a more practical way? What do you want people to do?
Okay, so my niche these days, which I'm focusing on, is unworthiness. So, what I have felt overall, even in my life, I have been through this arc where I had a sense of worth, like I did not think was worthy for many things, that I deserved things in my life. And so I brought myself down. And now, having going through those different choices I made and self growth steps that I took, I came to a space where I understood, how this all works. And if somebody knew, like if there was somebody to hold my hand through it all, it would have been so much better. So I focus on people who are going through a sense of unworthiness where they have self doubt, self sabotaging, like procrastination, and people who do not believe that they are like they're deserving of the life they should have, like the best life. So my idea is only to guide them, to slowly make them realize the power within, because I believe everyone is powerful. So as your question was, what I do is I go into those spaces within them and help them get to know themselves, so that once they understand that they are able to do things, that they are enough, that they are worthy, those I am affirmations. And I go through different meditative processes, and it's a very spiritual process. So you start with morning routines, you fix your habits of how you've been living a very mundane life. So my focus is to leave them with these habits, with these techniques, that they can now further on grow themselves, like a metamorphosis, like a butterfly, right? And then I just want them to go on their merry way. It's not like a therapist where you're like, come back to me, come back to me. So just letting them realize the power within, especially when it comes to unworthiness, self-sabotage, and those kind of issues. That's my main focus.
Could you explain a little more about your techniques, how you work with them?
So I have two programs right now. The first program is a 21 days of self-love detox, as I call it, because I believe we have an emotional body that we don't regard at all. So we go to the gym and we do different kind of things for the body. We do different kind of things for and for the mind. We read different books for self-growth. But what about the soul? Right. So my idea is the techniques that worked for me in my life, and whatever I've read and I have done in my coaching research, is to apply those ideas and tell people about the way I have been doing it and how it's worked for me. So it's not just like ideas out there, it's something that I have been through. So things like, for example, waking up in the morning at 5 a.m. and the power of that, waking up saying thank you rather than picking up your phone and going like, who's messaged me, right? Little ideas like waking up in the morning saying thank you, as I said, and then you meditate. There are rituals that you can do, like you can say, then you after that you could go into I am affirmations, and basically saying I am enough, I believe in myself, I am lovable. What does is that it subconsciously tells you that you can be what you never thought you could be subconsciously. Because when we wake up, this is just one technique, so let's focus on that. When we wake up, our brain is still in like a theta state where it's still trying to it's in a very subconscious sort of a state. So our brain is mostly 95% subconscious thinking. It's beliefs and ideas that have been embedded into us. And when we wake up and when we're about to go to sleep, the ideas and the thoughts that we put in ourselves are so important because they reprogram us. They can actually change your prior thinking and make you think better. So little things like waking up and just saying thank you, like even putting your feet down and saying thank you, going to the bathroom and saying thank you, little things like that affect you. And then I tell people how to meditate, just 5 minutes a day, little things that they can do around the schedule. Because I realize, especially with women that I deal with, there are a lot of women, so they say we don't have time. How do we do this? You must be having time, that's why you're doing this. So what I do is little pockets of ideas of like how you can do it around your children, how you can do it around your normal day activities, even if you're working, how you can do it. So 5 minutes meditate, wake up in the morning and do your little thing at least. So the way you start your day, it ends the same way. All these kind of techniques I do. There's a lot of gratitude. You write gratitude diaries, you write down your thoughts. It's a beautiful journey. And for those 21 days, I take them on this thing. And because it says it takes 21 days to build a habit, that's the minimum it takes to build a habit. And I believe a lot comes down, the mindset shift comes down to habits.
That is great. What about the other program?
The other one is an ongoing program that I have even right now. It's running. It's a one-on-one coaching. So what I do, it's a 3-month container. So I listen to them. I go through what they're going through and like target the issues they have. And then we go through it, and I have conversations online with them on Zoom. And I also do, work with them. I talk to them in this online platform where we talk to each other. We're in constant communication. So basically, I help them through their own personal problem rather than just telling them how to build new habits. So it's a very one-on-one connecting space where they can just tell me their hearts, whatever they're going through, whatever issues people have. There are a lot of things that people are going through, Noor, and just listening makes a very big difference. So the reason I say 3 months is that because we start with listening, then we go into the core problems, then we help them build them so they can maintain those ideas, right? So that's what's going on as well.
You mentioned like people finding their own power, the power within them. How do you do that? How do you enable them to find this power?
Number one step that I do, Noor, is I really believe in the power of meditation. It has shifted my life like anything. I have been able to see spaces within me and spaces around me in a very different, more absorbing, and also at the same time observer sort of a space. And so what I do is that I make meditation easy for them. So I start with guided meditations. They are meditations that I've recorded in my own voice. And I tell them that, okay, so whatever their target issue is, the meditation is designed for that. And it's like not more than 8 minutes long. So what I make it is like, just spend 8 minutes a day and you go through this. And so what happens is that when they make something like a practice every single day, we have this ability as human beings. We can reprogram our mind into thinking positively very easily, but we believe that it's easy to think negatively. What meditation does, it brings you to the still point within yourself where your thoughts stop doing the jogging after a little while. And that is the space where this little happy spot where you get to and you're like, okay, and in that, when you hear in your ears, when you listen to the meditation, you hear things like, I am amazing, I can do great things, I'm able to create new things. It actually shifts your perspective to understanding the power within you. So it's reprogramming, is the way, the mind reprogramming through meditation. And these things, Noor, these things have been in our, as humans as we are, they say we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So even before we had this, all these like technology, whatever we had, as ancient humans, we knew how to heal ourselves. We knew how to just hold somebody's hand and heal them, things like that. It's all within us, right? And it was all by the power of using a belief, and then the other person believes you, and then they can find a potential within them. So the idea is to go through back to those ancient ways of how, as human beings, we found places where we could sit down in stillness. We could be writing down diaries of like, oh, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. And what does that do? It makes you focus on what you do have rather than what you don't have. And Noor, it just takes you, if you keep doing it every single day, it takes you to a place where you're like, I am powerful.
I am
Yeah.
powerful. So my next question is, what is the role of the brain in this process?
Yeah, as I touched base a bit before as well, my focus is on the idea of how we have a subconscious brain, which is pretty much, if you believe it or not, our conscious brain, which is like doing this everyday activities, it's the 5% that we're using. The rest of it is 95%, which is basically built around the age of 7 or 10. It's around that age that if nobody grows from those ideas of beliefs and ideas, they stay in us. So whatever actions we take in our lives is based on those ideas that were early on feed it into us, because maybe we thought this is how you react to things, this is what you believe in because our ancestors believed in it, or whatever it was, right? So the brain is such an amazing place to be, to understand that we can ourselves, by using I am affirmations, for instance, where you say, I am amazing and all that, you say, wake up in the morning and say, I am powerful, I can do this, I can. It actually gets your brain to reprogram ideas of I cannot. So for instance, if you grew up thinking that boys cannot cry, for instance, right? I'm not saying you, but like the issues that I see with people when I talk to them, it's mostly guys who don't feel like they can be vulnerable. Like it's not macho to be crying, though crying, even you don't have to do it in front of somebody else, but if you cry even in your room, it's so good for our emotional body. And whoever has cried, they've always come to this point of like this relaxed sort of a space where they're like, okay, I needed to get this out, I'm so happy, right? So what happens is that if we don't change that belief of like boys are not supposed to cry, and the guy like goes through those different things, and he had marries, and then he has children, and he just cannot express himself because he never went through that process. So he can still change that if he realizes the power within, and then realizes that by repeating to yourself, you can reprogram new ideas into yourself. So it's not like something very out there and it's like, okay, what is she talking about? But you try it yourself. If any one of you, the listeners or the viewers are watching this new right now, if they try for at least, let's say, 7 days, let's say, and wake up every morning and say to themselves, I'm grateful for this. Just gratitude. Forget I have affirmations. Just saying, I'm grateful for the air that I breathe. I'm grateful for the food on my table. I'm grateful for the sun outside my window. And even if it's raining, I'm grateful, right? So there's something good in every day. It reprograms you into thinking happy thoughts all the time rather than all those past and future thoughts. Staying in the moment, staying in the present, staying in the now affects the brain in massive ways, which brings us to our true power within.
What would you recommend people to do?
In terms of,
Self-unworthiness and improving it, finding their own within power and self-love.
I would get them to get into a observer mode, which means instead of living life where you are, and this is not, I'm saying everybody's doing this. I'm pretty sure since COVID has happened, a lot of people have shifted their perspectives on life. A lot of inner work has happened. And I'm really grateful that this is happening, that there's a shift where people are understanding themselves. And I think the first thing is just to be aware, thought in your thoughts, just to be aware that what's happening in my life, what does not suit me, and we give attention to your emotional needs, because we tend to go like thinking, oh, all those past traumas that we went through, a trauma, Noor, can be a simple thing as your mother just shutting the door on your face when you try to go into her room to get something for yourself and you feel like, oh, she doesn't love me. Those little things can leave traumas on you. So what one needs to do is that just get into this awareness space. This is what happened. This is what might happen. This is where I am right now. Just become like aware of the space you are and aware of the thoughts you think. Are these just my thoughts, or they are just pre-programmed thoughts that I've been carrying along? So I think if anybody can just sit down in the stillness for 5 minutes a day and just maybe looking at the sun, maybe looking at their beautiful book that they love, or anything where they feel peaceful, find peace, 5 minutes a day, and just thinking where they're at, where they need to be at, that's the best healthy thing they can do.
What else would you like to add about this topic today?
Uh, I'm firstly very grateful to be here, to be able to say all these things that I'm saying, but I am just a human being, just like a normal human being, like everyone else. Sometimes people tend to think that coaches and all are like perfect beings who have everything sorted. I never come from that space. And I also don't come from that space where I'm like, oh, like that leader who wants to say, oh, follow me, follow me. I'm more of a person who's like, I'm just like you. I can, and if you feel you need somebody to hold your hand through this, I can hold your hand through this. And that's why it's soul coaching. It's like a very caring, loving, gentle, kind space where you help people find that nurturing space, because we are deep inside, we are liquid love. And that's how we go when we go in our mother's bodies. That's what an embryo is before it's born. And nobody talks about this, but any human being, everyone craves love. And the best thing you can do is give that love to yourself, and to get to that space, and you can be your bestest version. Wants to contact me, they can contact me on Instagram. I am on Instagram as The Untold Story Told. So that's one word, The Untold Story Told. I also do podcasting. So all my podcasting work is there, all my coaching work is there. I'm growing in that space. Anyone who wants to contact me can DM me. And I'm also on LinkedIn. But Instagram is definitely the space I am growing.
It's been great talking to you, Salah, and getting these great recommendations, especially at this time. Thank you so much for that indeed.
Thank you so much for having me, Noor. Really a pleasure.